Hello, everyone. Just a few more minutes and we'll start our webinar. Thank you.
Bună ziua!
Hello, can you please indicate also your full name?
Mircea Munteanu.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I think we can start since we have a lot of participants joined today. Thank you everyone for joining us. And we'll begin with, of course, with my presentation. My name is Anastasia Zotovic, and I'll present you today the company Archipelago and Afaceri.ro, and also our future events in Latin America for you to bear in mind. So when you listen to the expert presentation, you will have in mind the thought that you might actually visit one day Latin America with us, and it would be a very interesting experience. Okay. I hope you can see my screen. Yes? Okay, great. Thank you. Our webinar today is about navigating IP procedures and market opportunities in Latin America. We'll have two experts presenting on these two topics. First, I want to introduce our company Archipelago. Sorry. Okay, I think so. So Archipelago supports entrepreneurs through business education, international exploration, and global networking. We are a company that help other companies internationalize on other markets. We organize economic missions, events, and boot camps that combine innovation with cultural diversity, providing access to foreign markets and growth opportunities. Also, on our website, Afaceri.ro, we very often post opportunities for companies to grow, to accelerate, and find new partners. So you can follow closely our website for more details and opportunities. Speaking about Afaceri.ro, it is a program launched in 2010. An international online and face-to-face networking platform through which it has developed three types of events to support the internationalization of SMEs: international trade missions, international boot camps, which provide business education, and the on-site international conferences. Also, the Afaceri.ro community and business clubs comprise over 1,000 SMEs from Romania and abroad. Also, I would like to mention that Archipelago serves as a key local contact point in Iași, Romania, within the Eastern Romanian Business Support Network Consortium, for the EEN network, which is the world's largest support network for small and medium-sized enterprises with international ambitions. So the idea is that we provide tailored support to help you access new markets, secure financing, and adopt sustainable business practices. Next, I want to introduce you to our upcoming events in Latin America, which will take place physically. So first we have the trade mission in Brazil, which will take place from 14th of August to 24th. This mission is designed to build a strategic bridge between Romania and Brazilian markets, particularly in the context of the evolving EU-Mercosur free trade agreement. And also our colleague Vitor will speak more in details about this agreement, and you will see it's a very exciting opportunity for companies. Participants will explore innovation hubs, engage in high-level meetings with local business leaders, company visits, and strategic networking. This mission will take participants into major economic and cultural hubs in Brazil, including Rio de Janeiro, Brasilia, and Sao Paulo. For more details, you can access our website, Afaceri.ro, and you can find a lot of events there, but also more details about this trade mission in Brazil. Another important event that will take place this year is the bootcamp Afaceri.ro in Argentina and Uruguay, which will take place from 20 to 29 of November. Basically, is a dual market experience, discovering the economic landscape of Argentina and Uruguay in one comprehensive journey. Also, in the context of EU-Mercosur free trade agreement, it would be a great opportunity for companies to capitalize on this momentum. This bootcamp offers a rare combination of business education and field exploration. We will visit, of course, Buenos Aires and another business hubs in Uruguay. And if you seek more details, you can also access the link or visit our website. There you'll have details about every event that we are organizing this year and the next years. So we invite you to discover. And the last thing I want to mention is a little bit of the how our agenda of this webinar will gonna look. So yeah, we already are at the end of the first segment, the presentation of Archipelago and Afaceri.ro. The next, I will invite my colleague Victor to step in, and he will present you about Mercosur deal and its opportunities. After that, we'll have the expert presentation from IP SME Helpdesk in Latin America, Giovanna Girardi. I'm sorry for my pronunciation. And the last segment will be your Q&As. If anyone has a question, you can also address them via email, responding to my email that I send you, or in the Q&A session, we will try to respond to your questions accordingly. Thank you for your attention, and I'll be giving the floor to Vitor.
Hi, hello everyone. So how I presented, I created a small presentation. Let me just hook in. Just a moment so I can share my screen. So I guess you can all see my presentation now. I'm gonna guess yes. So I made a small presentation of what is the Mercosur and the opportunities coming from the deal between the European Union and the Mercosur. It was founded in 1991 with the same ideas of the European Union. One day to grow, free market between all the countries, free movement, one currency. We're not quite there yet. We are still building small steps. But we have strong laws helping the commercial side between the countries. So the trade between our countries, it's easier. As you can see, the members nowadays are Argentina, Brazil, Paraguay, Uruguay, and Bolivia. Bolivia is still entering the bloc. It's not quite there yet, but soon it will be. At some point, Venezuela was also a part of the bloc. It entered for a very short amount of time. I think it entered in 2017, and right afterwards, it left. It was blocked. So let me minimize this. So the EU and the Mercosur trade so far, the relations between them so far. The EU accounted for 16% or almost 17% of total trade in 2017 for the Mercosur, only after China. So we trade a lot with China. And for the European Union, Mercosur, it's only the 10th biggest trade partner. These are the numbers for the trades. So in the, I think 2020, this data is from 2024. The 2025 is not up yet. The export amount, the Mercosur exported more than imported on goods, but on services it was the other way around. This is mostly due to the fact that Mercosur exports a lot of raw materials, either being metals, iron, or anything like this, but also the agricultural side. We're going to see this soon. And about 80% of these trades were done only with Brazil, given the size of Brazil in all of the ways, geographically and in population. I think it's understandable. But there's also a good amount coming from, especially Argentina and Uruguay. Paraguay plays a smaller role nowadays on this. Why can't I go further? No. Okay, so these are the traded goods and services exported from the Mercosur to the EU. As I said, a lot of like uh, raw materials and uh, agricultural products. So soybean meal, which is used for feeding cattle, pork, and chicken. Beef, coffee, fruits, and juices. And I really express juices because Brazil is the biggest orange juice exporter in the world. It plays a big role in our economy, especially in the southeast of the country, or whereas São Paulo, Minas Gerais, Rio de Janeiro. Uh, 30.5% were in mineral products, so crude petroleum, because we have Petrobras, for example, which is the state-owned company that explores petroleum in Brazil. Copper ore, iron ore, and ferroalloys. We also have, and it's going to be shown later, important metals for the green plans that Europe has for digitalization and batteries and stuff like this. And 6.8% it's for pulp and paper, which are used.
Sorry, Victor, I think your mic is off. Yeah,
Oh, sorry. Did you catch up until what?
the last phrase.
Okay, so travel and tourism. I think if you've seen probably in the past year or so, there's been a boom in the tourism in Brazil. I think at least I've seen quite a lot in on the internet all around. South America, the same. Like the South America, I mean Argentina and Uruguay, especially Argentina. There's like a very big tourism on the part of the southern part of Argentina, where it's like the mountains and skiing places. So this is being considered as a service exported from the Mercosur to the EU because we are selling the service of tourism and hotellery. Telecommunications, because many of the big companies that work in telecommunication in Brazil are actually European. So TIM, the Italian, I will not remember the full name of TIM in Italian, but it's one of the biggest players in telecommunication in Brazil. Vivo, which is a Spanish company, the same, one of the biggest players in the Brazilian telecommunication, and these are markets that generate billions of euros. So uh, this is from the EU to the Mercosur. So if here we saw that most of it's raw materials, agricultural products, simple stuff. From the EU to Mercosur, it's the opposite. You take the raw materials, you add value to it, and you resell it. So, for example, if here we see crude petroleum, copper, iron, and ferroalloys, here we have machinery and appliances. So you take the raw material and you build something and you sell it back, adding value and growing the economy. So in this part here, machinery and appliances, we have car parts, automatized machinery, anything for industry basically. Chemicals and pharmaceutical products. This englobes chemicals, really the base material for chemicals, but pharmaceutical, it's pills, perfumes, uh, makeup, anything like this, it enters in this. Uh, yeah, sorry, the 12.1% it's cars and car parts, but machinery, it's mostly related to industrial machinery. Agricultural products, but not the raw material. It's wine and cheeses, olive oil, which is expensive in South America because it's produced only in a couple of parts of the south, and anything that it's geographically protected. So let's say camembert or champagne or anything like this. I'll explain a bit further, but it's really well seen there, and it's a big market for us. Services, it's transport services, maritime transport and air freight. So because there's a very big trade between these two continents, and in Brazil we have very big ports, the Porto de Santos. In the south part we have Porto de Itajaí, and in the north part we also have like other ports that are very important for the trade. Uh, what be happening lately? It's also environmental services. So basically nowadays we have the focus of being green, sustainability and stuff like this. And because Brazil and Bolivia and other countries from the South America, but as we're talking Mercosur, it's mostly Brazil, has the Amazon forest. And we are all really worried about what's happening, deforestation and stuff like this. And North, I've seen this mostly from Northern European countries, that they have like some type of specialization in environmental services, and conservation and studies. Like I've seen this coming a lot from Norway, Denmark, the Netherlands, and Germany. Um, Financial services, so of course, investments, tradings, banking, insurance, and as I said before, telecommunication. This is what the deal will bring. This is what we can expect from it. It will eventually eliminate 91% of tariffs on goods. Why I say eventually, it's because it's not from day one, all the tariffs will go. It will be a rollout. It's little by little, they will drop with time. This should save about 4 billion euros annually for European companies. Sorry. Uh, so tariffs on cars, which are currently up to 35%, should drop, and machinery, which are between 14 and 20%, depending on the type of machinery, will be eliminated, boosting manufacturing exports. Uh, this is what I meant earlier. Agri-food and geographical indications. Over 350 European food and drink products, cheese, wines, and etc. we protect as a geographical indications. Because in Brazil, nowadays, theoretically, we don't need to follow any of these geographical indications because we're not in Europe. They are protected in Europe, not in Brazil or Argentina or Uruguay. This is mostly a selling point. So in Brazil, you can sell camembert cheese. Is it done in camembert? Probably not. It's done in Brazil. And nowadays, with the trade, this will start being protected, and it will only be sold cheese from camembert, the style camembert, in Brazil. Uh, this will enhance their value in South American markets. At the same time, that it will also lower their prices because it's gonna drop the amount of import taxes on them. So it's gonna be more available for the general public. It's gonna be more sought after, and the prices are gonna drop, but there's gonna be more search for it. So in the end, it's an opportunity also. Textiles and apparel. So as you take raw material from South America, you sell back fashion and textile sectors. So clothing, and this doesn't mean only luxury clothing like Armani or Gucci or whatever. It can be industrial clothing for protection, PPIs, or uh, anything like this. Chemicals and pharmaceuticals, as I said before, uh, it's gonna be from 18 to 14, like between 18 and 14%, depending on the product, it's gonna drop. And on the textile and apparel, it's gonna be 35% the taxes off. Here on the right side, I showed the currently import taxations that the Mercosur has for European products on related to agri-food. So you can see that 25% of there's a 25% tax on wines, and there's a growing wine market in Brazil. Uh, when I was a kid, for example, beer was everywhere. We used to drink a lot of beer. Nowadays, the market is shifting towards wine. I think there's something related to being a bit fancier, a bit nicer to drink. I think because the internal market, it's growing in the sense that like the quality of life is growing, we are affording more stuff, and wine, which was always expensive back then, it's becoming more accessible, and becoming something more popular to drink. So I think this here is a really good opportunity. Spirits, I think mostly related to vodka, whiskey, and etc. But I don't see as something so popular. European chocolate is absolutely famous in South America everywhere, but I would say that it's out of reach for the vast majority of people because we also have our internal market. So the cutting these 20% taxes, I think it will be much more available for the public. So Lindt, Milka, if there are smaller brands that want to start exporting now because of this, there's a very big chance. Uh, and canned peaches, because we don't have natural peaches in Brazil, like we have to import from other countries, and soft drinks, which I haven't seen much of a market. Mostly stuff are made in Brazil, but and what will come to the EU from this trade deal. So as I said in the beginning, we uh, import a lot of stuff from the Mercosur, a lot of soybean meal, beef, corn, orange juice. All of these will drop their prices because the import taxes are going to be cut. This will be core for, like, imagine that this is like a domino effect because you're going to buy cheaper soybean meal for your cattle. This is going to drop the price of like keeping cattle, and it's also drop the price of a kilo of the beef when you sell it in the end. Or if you want to import directly the beef from South America, it's going to be cheaper. Uh, it will bring many benefits for the European market, the agriculture, this part of agriculture. And as you could see a couple of months ago, I think in early January, there were many discussions in the European Parliament about helping the local farmers here also not to lose so much. So there are many funds allocated to the local farmers so they would not remain behind. Uh, the deal will also bring public procurement uh, in the sense that the EU companies will gain the right to bid on government contracts in Mercosur countries. As I said in the beginning of the presentation, Brazil, it's the largest country by far, and the market, like only Brazil has 8 billion uh, euros in the market. This is annually, so you can have an idea of how much like Brazilian economy is growing and its value nowadays. These bids go to public construction or anything that the government wants to do or wants to buy. The European companies will be able to bid much easily. And as I said before, critical raw materials such as the deal secures stable, predictable, and access to key materials. These are all materials needed for digitalization, batteries, because there's like a huge surge now on electrical cars, for example. Lithium, nickel, niobium, and rare earths. Because in Brazil and in Argentina, there's a lot. Lithium, I know that there's a lithium triangle in Argentina. Brazil has a lot of nickel and niobium. So there's like a huge market for this also. It's only starting. Brazil, it's still like in the early phases of exploring nickel, and I think Argentina is going a bit further already with lithium. So there's a very big market for this also there. And I also want to show that Brazil and the Mercosur is more than just agriculture and raw materials and stuff like this. São Paulo alone has 10 unicorns, so companies that are valued more than $1 billion. There are 25 in the whole Brazil, and Argentina has another two or three. I know three, but I didn't find the data for the three. I only found for two, so I wrote two. Uruguay, if I'm not wrong, doesn't have a unicorn like valued 1 billion, but they have also very big companies in the IT area. Florianopolis, which is a smaller company, a smaller city in southern Brazil, it's in the state of Santa Catarina, has a booming tech environment. So as you can see, 25% of the city's economy it comes from IT and tech. Not only IT in the sense of services, but also hardware. It's amazing. In Brazil, there is also Embraer, You might know some of these, which is like a competitor for Boeing or which Airbus. And why did I write here high quality universities and high skilled professionals? It's because I'll try to explain in a good way. Basically, Brazil has really good universities, really good universities. But after these people they finish university and they have their diploma, the internal market for jobs in Brazil it's going not the best. And it's really easy, I would say, to find highly skilled professionals with good graduations that will be willing to move out of Brazil, either for researches or work as engineers, as anything. There are plenty. Brazil has 200 million people. Argentina has another 40. Uruguay has less. I think Uruguay has two. So all of these countries have many good universities. Buenos Aires University is amazing. USP in São Paulo is really good. The Rio de Janeiro University, amazing. So there are many. In Brazil, we also have the Instituto Tecnológico Aeronáutico, which it graduates aeronautical engineers. All of them are really good. They are all being exported nowadays to USA mostly because basically Boeing, what they do is that they check who graduated these universities and they're picking by hand these professionals and taking them to USA. And the same way that like for researches, many of these people that finish universities in Brazil and they want to go for the academical side for researches and to become like doctors and stuff like this, they will leave Brazil most likely because the grants and the financial side for this in Brazil is kind of weak. I also wrote down hydro energy knowledge because we have Itaipu, which is like the second largest hydroelectric dam in the world, only after the one in China, I forgot the name. And there's a lot of knowledge around this. Also, many professionals that are specialized only in this area. It's debatable, but it's green energy. Like it doesn't burn coal or it doesn't harm the nature so much. And here I wrote down some of the business opportunities that I see that can be coming uh, from this trade. So, due to the growing urbanization and rising of middle class in all of these countries, as I said, there's a demand for high quality specialized products such as premium dairy, wine, cheeses, and processed foods. I I truly believe. I've seen this happening in the Mercosur countries. People are affording more stuff nowadays. They wanna have a more, I'm not gonna say luxurious life, but they wanna be able to enjoy their food. They wanna eat better, and there is also the idea that European products have a certain status. If you buy like good European wine, if you're eating European cheese, and this is a really big market. Um, IT solutions. Uh, so as I said, there's a mix because we have very skilled workers that are in search for jobs because the internal market it's not amazing. So if you go there, you try to open a business or you want to find a partner in Brazil to help you here, for sure there will be plenty of partners, of people willing to work with you, and it's amazing. This is not only in Brazil, it also extends to Argentina. I know that has a very strong tech in Buenos Aires and in Montevideo. Amazing. Textile. So I wrote this in the sense that don't think only about exporting uh, added value products from Europe there, but to bring uh, products from Brazil, so and the South America, because we have a very big um, uh, industry for example, I know that we have a very big industry for bathing suits, and I know that like the style of South American bathing suits is popular in Europe. There's a possibility of importing or working with suppliers from South America to supply certain fabrics and garments for to produce here. Always exists the possibility. Uh, as the economy is still growing, there is also the possibility of machinery and industrial components exporting from here. As you take the raw materials from the Mercosur, you give back machinery and industrial components. The industry in Brazil and in South America, it's still developing. There's a lot of uh, growth potential, and we need the expertise and the proper machinery to make this work. Uh, so as I said here, automation, food processing, packaging, and refrigeration. This also relates a lot to us exporting a lot of agricultural products. And as the as I said earlier, there's also the green technology and renewable energy, which is a huge topic nowadays. Green hydrogen, which is starting to be used in some of the ports, solar energy, wind energy, which started being wind energy started being a topic nowadays in Brazil, especially in the northeast side, south of Argentina, and north of Uruguay, if I'm not wrong. Uh, there are places which have less cities and more open space, more wind, and they are starting to make wind farms. Uh, Many Dutch and Norwegian companies are taking advantage of this. So I think this is just something that I added extra. This is my point of view when doing business between, like the differences between Latin America in general. I didn't write only Mercosur because take this with a grain of salt. Although I'm saying Latin America, countries are different, there are different cultures. But from what I see, uh, there is a difference between Europe and Latin America in the sense that here you are more professional and straightforward. In South America, we are more personal connections, going out for a dinner first to get to know each other, uh, being a bit closer one to each other. Uh, Time and flexibility, it's not really professional, but we are maybe not as uh, time adherent as most European cultures are. We are a bit more flexible. Deadlines might not always be deadlines. They might be pushed a bit further because we are a bit more flexible. Like it's just in our culture a bit. Like even for simpler stuff, we're not so punctual. So I think this translates a bit into the business world. Don't don't accept also a lot of slack from their side, but I think there's a space for a bit of understanding. Also, I think that there's a part more of negotiation. Don't go directly with a high pressure hard sell approach. It's gonna come out as a bit harsh and more uh, how can I say, like like not really sympathetic, like this, like not really nice. So people will like look a bit at you like, oh, this guy is trying to push me to do something that I don't want. Try to be, as I said in the beginning, relationship first. Try to build a relationship, to talk, to discuss, and I think things will go a bit better. And this is it. I just wanna add a couple more things. So the in Brazil we have the Amazonian free trade zone, which is a zone in Manaus that there are many tax incentives for IT and hardware building. Many big companies have factories there, like Microsoft. I know that has a factory there, uh, and it they did this to bring people to the center of Brazil because basically all the economy was in the coast side. So the government in the 60s built this to bring also bigger incomes to the center of the country. And I can also provide the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Uruguay made a whole brochure based on the EU and Mercosur deal, explaining everything that there's a possibility of trading between these two countries. It's a really professional and well done brochure done by the government itself. So I can also provide this to anyone that's interested. I can give more. There's also a brochure for the Manaus Free Trade zone, which is really interesting to read. And yeah, that's about it.
Thank you, Victor. Thank you. It was very interesting and engaging. And it provided a lot of insights actually on this relationship between Mercosur and the EU that I personally didn't know, and it's very nice. Next, we will go to the presentation of Latin America IP SME Helpdesk. Giovanna will take the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Anastasia. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Before I start, I'm going to launch a question here in the chat, and I kindly request that you answer within the chat A, B, or C. This is for our impact assessments purposes. We need to know if what we do today is worth of anything, which I truly hope it is. So here in the chat, you already have the question. Please take a minute to read and answer. And while you read and answer, I am going to share my screen with you. Just as an introductory matter, I'd like you to understand exactly what is the IP Helpdesk, the Latin American IP Helpdesk. This is a service provided by the European Commission to all small and medium-sized companies in the Single Market Program, which is composed by the 27 member states plus Ukraine, Turkey, some Balkan countries. They all compose the Single Market Program, and they all can be beneficiary of the services the help desks provide. Now you see in the screen, there are 6 of us. Latin America is one, focus on obviously Latin American territory, but we also have the European IP Helpdesk, we have Africa IP Helpdesk, we have India, China, and Southeast Asia. Each one of us focus on a specific territory because intellectual property rights are territorial rights. So it depends heavily on the national legislation in those countries. And therefore, the Commission has decided to provide the services in chunks of territory. The services the helpdesk provide are consultation services. You have a problem, you have a doubt connecting intellectual property rights, your trademarks, your designs, your copyright, your patents within that particular territory. Sometimes and here it can be very broad, sometimes the question, the problem you have is not strictly speaking intellectual property, but where intellectual property plays a big role. Let's say your distribution agreement where your intellectual property rights are of the essence, or your license agreements, or sometimes the questions, the problems you may be facing is not only about do I have a right or how do I have a right, but more complex, involving other parts. And we are here for that, to help you see the light in the end of the tunnel. So that's what the first line of assistance is. We aim to answer your queries, your doubts within 3 working days with the utmost confidentiality, personalized, precise, and clear. You can contact us either by email, telephone, or internet. We have in the page of the European Commission, you'll find us, and we have in our section The help desk has a form where you can use to send your queries or get in touch with us. We also provide online resources. We have country and sector fact sheets. Latin America, we have around 33 countries. We have countries fact checked where you can have a bit of understanding what is available there, what agreements these countries are part of in connection with intellectual property. Yes. What is the trend? Where is progressing to? We also have the sector fact sheet, where is more specific, more tailored to where you are. Let's say tech or agri-food or fashion or whatever it is you're in. You may find a fact sheet in the designated page of the help desk within the Commission website. We also have guides, we have case studies, and here the case studies bring a lot of learning because those are small businesses that have had certain problems there, and you will see what happened in their cases. Either what was the success story or what was the nightmare they have faced to avoid going in there. So the case studies are brilliant. It's a brilliant learning curve for everyone. And we also have training modules, on-demand training modules. And last but not least, the trainings, face-to-face, online trainings, in which we discuss particular matters of interest of our target public interests. That is the SMEs of the Single Market Program. Here you see the details of each of the help desks, the emails where you can contact us depending on the geographical IP problem you have. Also find us in LinkedIn and X, and of course in the webpage of the European Commission. Now, all services we provide are free of charge, so that is very important to understand. And I highly encourage everyone to participate, to get in touch with us, because it's a free of charge service. Okay, so with that, I'm going to deep dive into what I've been asked to talk about today. So, intellectual property rights. The name brings something we need to think of, and the own name is kind of telling me if I'm talking about a right to exist, a right to have, a right to sell, what exactly is that right? And if we're talking about right, we have to understand we will necessarily be talking about law. If we're talking about right, we are talking about law. What is the law enabling that right to exist? That is of the essence to understand. But when we're talking about intellectual property rights, as Victor brought up with the geographical indications, is a business element. Is an asset to help us create consumption of whatever we are bringing into the market. So there's 1/3 of intellectual property rights that is related to law, and 2/3 of intellectual property rights is a business matter. And the market opportunities you'll be able to see, or you should be able to see, in my opinion, is in those matters, those business matters, intellectual property rights play a role. Yeah, but obviously I'm a lawyer, and this presentation is gonna go a bit of mixing both words, law and business. Yeah, okay. So as a business matter, why is the question we need to answer? Why do I need intellectual property? What what is intellectual property? For what purpose? More than anything, more than what is, for what purpose? Why do I use this for? Revenue or consumption generation, enable of commercial relationships, enablement of a competitive advantage through exclusivity. So this intellectual property rights give you an exclusive right to use in commerce these certain elements that will enable to create consumption for your offering. So when we're thinking the business, we have to think in this triad: competitors, commercial partners, and end consumers. They have to be in the back of our heads when we're thinking IP. This triad is the essential elements to drive the need for intellectual property. So just to go, what type of intellectual property you may need? Let's think of how do you call your product? What is the name you use to trade your product? That is your trademark. Your trademark, in legal terms, is an exclusive right to brand identity elements. So in legal terms, is your exclusive right to brand identity elements. So here I'm blending the business, which is the name you use to get attention of your consumer, and the exclusive right to that name. A design is an exclusive right to the external aspect of the product. What makes that product stand out in the shelf? How the consumers see it? What kind of shape does it have? So that, in legal terms, is the exclusive right to use in commerce that particular aspect your product may have. A patent, on the other hand, is the exclusive right to a novel technical solution to a problem with industrial applicability. An exclusive right, in legal terms, a patent is an exclusive right to a novel technical solution. A novel technical solution. Novel means is new anywhere in the world. Okay, and with these three main types of intellectual property rights, I'll move forward because they are the most commonly used, the most needed for the creation of consumption of your offering. So with that, we move forward, okay? But we could also talk about geographical indication. I just think the geographical indication here, we need to make a point. It is very relevant, especially with the Mercosur deal. But here is very important to understand that while a trademark, design, a patent, a utility model, copyright, a domain name, it can be owned by one single entity, either it a natural person or a company. A geographical indication can only be owned by an association of individuals or companies. And geographical indication cannot be owned by a single entity. It's a collective right. So that is the main difference and the reason why we're not going to discuss in depth today. Consumption in practice, what does consumption in practice look like? I look at my consumer and I will understand what elements of my offering could call his attention, could get his attention and make him purchase my product. So here in the screen, you see a pair of shoes. You see also the Anyway Up cup, which is a young children cup. And the advantage here is to not only the design you see in the screen in the little photo there, but also the Anyway Up cup. You can put it upside down, and mommies in the room today will be like happy to hear that if you put up the cup upside down, it will not leak, and that is fairly important for a mother with a young child, because spills happen anywhere, anytime. Anyway, so here we have a technical solution, a design, and we also have a brand. You also see a pharmaceutical product there. You see the blue pills, the well-known blue pills from Pfizer with name Viagra. They are in the color. The color is not chosen by mistake. The color is there because they are focused on a particular consumer segment. The color, the shape is not the typical shape. The shape of the pill is not the shape of any other pill. Then we also have here, you see the stitch, the little box. This little box, you may not be able to see what is inside, but I'll tell you, is a mandarin. There are 2 mandarins in that little box. Here, the interesting catch for me is mandarins, fruits in general, has always been traded as a commodity. You buy them by the kilo, yeah? There's no brand names. You go to the supermarket or to your local fruit shop and you get them by the kilo. You don't know who is the producer or who is the distributor. You don't know if you have a claim. You don't know who to go to. And here, not only fruits and vegetables have been started traded with a name to create connection with the consumer. So I know Torres has the best mandarins in the market, and that's the mandarins I want to buy. And if they don't have Torres in the supermarket, then I will not buy mandarins because I know they will taste sour. Okay, but here Torres has done a clever move, not only using their branding, but somebody else's branding. Somebody else has become viral because of a film that was launched mid-term last year. So they used the image of the stitch, which is intellectual property of somebody else, to boost their own commercial activity. Now, be careful with that, because to use somebody else's intellectual property rights, you need to have authorization. You don't do that just because you think it's going to boost your commercial activities. You do that in the right way. Yeah. So that's basically what consumption looks like. But also, I bring back Torres example so we can understand that the role intellectual property plays not only in the consumption, but also in the commercial relationships we have in practice. The sales of goods, either through e-commerce, retailers, distributors, agents, franchise, licensing, manufacturing, supply, joint ventures, collaborations with other companies, with influencers. The array of opportunity intellectual property is creating in commercial relationships is endless, and it's up to you to see where they are. It's up to you to envision that. Where can I use the assets I have, the intellectual property assets, the trademarks, the patents, the designs, the GIs, if I have one, or whatever you have, to boost these commercial relationships. And there was something that caught my attention from Victor's presentation as well, is that he said, build the relationship. Yeah, build the relationship. And relationships need to be built in trust, need to be built in many values. And here we need to keep in mind that everybody is looking for an opportunity. Your distributor, your potential distributor, your potential agent, your potential franchisee, everyone is looking for an opportunity to be taken care of. So we're not only looking at the legal aspects we need to have in mind, but also those cultural aspects that we need to deal with, to tie in and to make the other side see the opportunity we have in hands for them. Yeah. So competitive advantage in practice. We have seen consumption in practice. We have seen commercial relationship in practice. Now we need to see competitive advantage in practice. That is to own what others want in commercial exclusivity. And when I start discussing IP, You must remember, I said, this is an exclusive right to certain aspects of your commercial offering. This exclusive right is given by law. And this exclusive right gives you the right to do whatever you want with that right. And you own it. And it's yours. It's your property. And because it's your property, you decide what happens. So you can make, use, sell, import, export, reproduce, distribute, display. You have control over the proprietary right. Exclusivity may need it to be defended. When there is an unauthorized use, you may need to take action in the relevant territory of commercial interest where the relevant intellectual property right exists. Now, there are two things here it needs to have raised red flags for you. One is territory of commercial interest where the right exists. So territory and existence. Now the question is how? How does the right start to exist? Is an application procedure. This is a legal matter where you're going to have to fulfill some legal requirements. You have to understand legal requirements come from national legislation in the country of your commercial interest. Yes. So your IP right, your trademark, your design, your patent will only exist if you have fulfilled the requirements, the legal requirements of the national legislation in the country of your commercial interest. Is it Mexico? Is it Brazil? Is it Costa Rica? Is it Colombia? Is it El Salvador? Is it Guatemala? You have to focus there where that country, what is the legal requirement in that country? And after you kind of gather, oh, I can fulfill the requirements, then I have to file an application, a formal application with the relevant authority in that country for the right to exist. If I don't do that, if I don't submit the application that complies with the legal requirements, the national legal requirements in that country, that right does not exist. Where and when? The need for the rights is geolocated whenever you have a commercial interest. And when is, if I got €1 for every time, when do I register my intellectual property rights? I would be a millionaire. When do I register? When there is a need to manage that competitive advantage, when there is a need to manage that commercial consumption creation, where there is a need, when there is a need to facilitate business relationship, be it business to business, be it business to consumer, be it business to consumers. It doesn't matter. Where they need to manage the competitive advantage, the consumption, and the business relationship, I will need to register my intellectual property rights with a relevant authority in the country I have commercial interest. Second point for the existence of the right, management of that right. So we know that for the right to exist, I'm going to have to file an application with the relevant authority. But for the right to continue to exist, I'm going to have to follow it up with some administrative procedures, be oppositions against new applications that challenge the validity of my right, cancellations, but also declarations of use. Those rights are economic rights, and if they are not used, they can be canceled. So in many of the Latin American countries, you may have an obligation to declare the use. Some countries, you need to prove that the use has happened in that territory. You also need to renew those rights, the existence of the rights, paying the relevant government fee. And that the renewal will give you, extend the validity of your right in that territory. You need to keep an eye on when the renewal needs to happen. You may also need to register those rights with the customs authority. So the right first needs to exist for then you to manage and register with the customs authorities. So the customs authority could work as they are border control for the entrance of original and fake goods. Yeah, so that's the reason you register the rights with the customs authorities. But you also have, these are legal matter, administrative and legal procedures for the management of your right. But you also have business procedures for the management of your right. You have to monitor your business interests, your intellectual property assets, what is happening in e-commerce, what is happening in the search engines, what is happening? Am I being infringed? Is there an unauthorized use? You can only know if there's unauthorized use if your eyes are open and if you do actively looking at what is happening. What are your IP policies? Do your employees know when it's time to register something? Do they know what to do when something innovative comes up? Be it a technical solution, a novel technical solution, or be it a new brand you're launching in the market. Can they launch a brand in the market without registering it with the relevant authority in the country of your commercial interest? So that is your policy. Your employees need to be trained. You need to take action before administrative and legal procedures when there is an unauthorized use. You also need to have a procedure for the life cycle of the right. We see that the administrative or legal actions you need to take in the life cycle, at least the renewal is a very important milestone in the life cycle of your rights. So you need to keep a track there. How? Is a business procedure you need to put in place. So for monitoring your rights, you have to audit it. What rights do you actually have? Is a trademark, domain name, design, a copyright? What do I have? Where can I monitor it? Online, offline? Here, I think is very relevant, and this is we have maybe a tendency to think that infringement of intellectual property rights happen mostly online. And I can dispute that with many examples. And I can dispute that there is as many chances of being infringed online as is offline. And in my experience, there is a great number of infringement happening within your supply chain. Those contracts that you nearly closed and in the end it didn't go through, those partners there, keep an eye on them. Keep an eye on the supply chain. What are they doing? Are they manufacturing just what you order, or are they manufacturing more? How do you know that? Maybe you need to review your contracts and put a clause where you can inspect the factories to understand the level of production. Maybe there's other things you need to put in place, but you need to put in place all those things to understand what is happening with your rights and where you need to put efforts to defend those rights. How can you put efforts there? Well, to certain monitoring efforts, you can subscribe to services, monitoring services through your agent. Yeah, you can subscribe to watching what's happening in the relevant intellectual property offices of your commercial interest. You can also register with the marketplaces for the takedown of unauthorized use of your IP. You have the Amazon brand registry, but here, if we're looking into America Latina, Mercado Libre, which is the biggest e-commerce platform in Latin America, also have the same mechanisms to monitor and defend your IP rights. So the same thing is there, but you need to activate. You need to proactively engage with the platform to be able to keep an eye what's happening and to be able to take action when it's needed. Social media platform tools as well are there available, Google Ads, the custom registration. There are a number of things that can be done, but obviously they need your efforts. So for now, we're seeing so far the existence of the rights, the management of the rights, and now we need to see last and not less important, the defense of your rights, your intellectual property rights. And here there are a few things we go back, and here is the moment where the law is it becomes imperative, because the defense of a right, the right is a matter of law, and the defense of the right is a bigger matter of law. So your legal procedures is strictly related to intellectual property rights. You'll be looking at an infringement and an enforcement action. And here you have two ways. In all countries in Latin America, you have two ways of dealing with it. One is through civil courts or criminal courts. In civil courts, all we are looking for is being put in the same position we were before the infringement happened. Is a compensation for damage? Is a compensation for loss of income? What are we looking? But generally speaking, civil remedies, civil courts, we are always looking to get back the money we deem we have lost. In criminal actions, we are not looking necessarily for the money. We are looking for a punishment. We are looking for a penalty. We are looking for even imprisonment of whoever infringed our rights. So the possibility is there, and we need to select wise according to what actually we want to achieve. Now, in legal procedure, in defending our rights, not always the action we need is strictly related to IP, intellectual property rights. Sometimes it's related to contractual issues, where the IP right plays a big role. Or is a matter of unfair competition. That contract that did not close, but that potential partner that had lots of communications with you, that was super interested, is now selling counterfeit. So it's not really an IP problem, but it's very related. So we need to keep a focus there to how, and for what we need this legal procedure. Yeah. So what do we expect from a legal procedure? We need to submit a claim to the competent authority, to the competent court. And here is tricky, because you may want to submit this claim to your local court, and your local court is probably unlikely to be competent to decide on the case. So it's a lost effort. We need to answer the questions to know which is the competent authority. Where did the problem happen? Where did the problem happen? Where does the defendant has its place of business? These two questions will give us a fair good answer of where is the competent court. This understanding where the problem happened and who is the defendant, where does the defendant has his place of business, leads to the need to be able to identify in the claim the defendant, to clearly identify the defendant in the claim. Sometimes we don't always have all the details, but good enough details to be able to submit the claim. But we also, within the claim, we need to state the facts and the legal grounds we have. If we are submitting a claim, a legal claim, what happened? Oh, it was an infringement of my trademark, was an infringement of my patent. And this trademark and this patent has been registered here. And here, as evidence, I have the certificates of ownership. Now, it goes back and forward. I need the rights to exist and only exist once I have that certificate of granting, the certificate of ownership. That certificate of ownership only exists if I have submit the application. And in addition to the statement of the facts and the legal grounds and the evidence, I need to request something from the courts. What do I want the courts to do? What do I want the courts to do? It's not a matter of saying, these people have infringed my right. They have infringed my right. Here's the proof. And this is what I want. And this is what I'm entitled by law. And this, you only understand what you're entitled by law when you understand what the national law, the national legislation of where the problem actually happened gives you. But basically, the first and most important thing is that the right needs to exist. Then after the claim is submitted, the courts will notify the claim to the defendant and give them time to respond. Respond is submitted, maybe with a counterclaim. You will then have an oral hearing and a decision, and the decision may be appealed. So this is what you should expect for a legal procedure in either a strictly related IP procedure or a not strictly related IP procedure, but where IP has a relevant role. Now, I see I still have a little bit of time, yeah? So I'm going to go quickly through a few case studies so we can see all this theory I have been trying to explain in actually case studies, in actually situations that have happened. But before I enter into these case studies, I need you to remember 4 points. One is, why do I need intellectual property rights? How to acquire those intellectual property rights in the country of destination, and how to use these intellectual property rights to create economic value, how to defend and enforce them in the face of unauthorized use. And with that, let's talk about realities. So here in this case study, I have a fashion company, a Belgian fashion company that launched a collection incorporating monograms into textiles. Monograms into textiles, this is a design matter, is a design right, an exclusive rights to external aspect of a product. They have started negotiations with a Brazilian company to distribute the collection in Brazil. Now, I already answered the question I had there for you. What type of exclusive rights could they have to attract potential local partners and consumers? Here are two main rights we need to take into account. One is trademark. All business, regardless of the sector, they will need a trademark. They will need their consumers and their partners to be able to call the offering by something. And in this particular case, we have a design. The monogram incorporated into the textile is a design. Okay, so this Belgian company in the EU, they relied on a non-registered design, which is a possibility we have in the EU and only and exclusively in the EU. Unregistered designs. So they didn't have to do anything. They didn't have to register to have a right. Now, nonetheless, we have to make a caveat here. Non-registered designs only last for a period of 3 years in the EU. Okay? Unregistered designs only last for a period of 3 years. If you want your rights to last longer, let's say up to 25 years, you will need to register. You will need to file that application, that formal application with the relevant authority in the EU. Now, an unregistered design is very sensitive to time. But now, both unregistered and registered designs can be internationalized. They are going to Brazil, remember? So we need these rights to exist in Brazil. And in Brazil, the only way this right exists is with a formal application to the National Intellectual Property Office of Brazil. And now here, that is something this company had needed to do, and they didn't. I tell you, they didn't. But not only they didn't, because they did not fulfill a legal requirement. And the legal requirement is designs as patents need to be novel, and novelty is a worldwide requirement. Once you have made this design public, you have 6 months to internationalize this design. The problem here is that the 6 months, by the time they were negotiating this contract, the 6 months have passed, and they were unable to register the design because they did not fulfill a legal requirement. Okay. So yeah, here is just how do we acquire the right in Brazil, which I briefly introduced. Now, the Brazilian company they were negotiating with stopped the negotiations and launched a collection with a very similar monogram. Now, my question to you is there a violation? Is there an infringement of the Belgian company's design right? And the answer is no, because the right did not exist in Brazil. As we've seen, the only way for that right to exist in Brazil is that there was a formal registration request with the national authority in Brazil. As that did not happen, the right did not exist, and the violation of the right did not exist. Okay. So the learning here for me, and I hope for you as well, is that registration and defense of the rights go hand in hand. There is no infringement where the right does not exist. That is clear. But here there is even a further learning point here, which for me is even more relevant because that's what brings income. Okay, so this is more relevant than being able to defend your right. Registration of your intellectual property rights and the commercial use of this intellectual property right also goes hand in hand. Where there is no right, there is no incentive for this potential business partner to enter into a contractual relationship. Why would anyone sign in on obligation if the object of the contract does not exist? I will not ever undertake an obligation where the object of my desire does not exist. It's unrealistic to think that our potential partners will do that. So if we don't have the right, it's unlikely that we will be able to generate enough interest from those potential partners. Now here we enter another case study. This is a German company in the telecommunications sector. And here I'm not going to answer, I'm not going to ask what type of rights you think they should have. I'm just going to tell you they need definitely a trademark, and is maybe they will need a patent. In this case, the matter goes over a patent. This company, this is a small business company in the telecommunications sector, did request the European patent in 2018. They were granted. Now, how they acquire the patent rights, they must submit their formal application to the national office. If they want to internationalize, let's say here the case, they were interested in Mexico, so they have the possibility of requesting the national office in Mexico for this patent to be granted, or because Mexico here is part of the Patent Cooperation Treaty that is managed by the World Intellectual Property Office, they could choose to follow the Patent Cooperation Treaty procedure, the international procedure for the registration, for the granting of a patent rights in Mexico. Okay, so the process here, what you should expect from the process is you have a base patent. Within the 12 months, you request the internationalization of the patent, not to lose that novelty. Then within the international phase, you have an international search or have a public international publication. And around 30 months for some countries and 31 months for other countries, the international authority, the World Intellectual Property Organization, forward that application to the relevant authority in the country of your choice. And then the country, the national authority in the country of your choice will analyze the patent according to their own legislation, and then, if everything is okay, grant the right to you. So again, application must fulfill legal requirements, local legal requirements. Yeah. So this patent, not to extend too much into my time here, this patent, the European patent, was internationalized in Mexico in 2019. And unfortunately, in a fair, they went to a trade fair. This company went to a trade fair to offer their product, to offer their solution to that market. And they detected an unauthorized use of their right. They did a further investigation that confirmed the infringement, that confirmed the violation, but not only that. The infringement here was not only a mere infringement. They were not only using the right, but they have also requested a right to the national authority in Mexico. So the infringer had requested the right on their own behalf. And here, you know, when something goes wrong, it does not go wrong alone. There's always many things that happen in a story, you know. So here, this was possible. The infringer were able to apply for this right and have this right granted to him in Mexico, because by the time the applications were filled, the patent, the European patent, was not published. Okay, so though the German company had priority and the priority could be proved, this was possible because the Mexican authority was not aware that this patent already existed. So as they were not aware, they did not detect it, that novelty was not there. Of course, when the German company detected this, they had two actions to manage the right, to manage the existence of the right. One, there's a mistake there. One is before the Mexican authority there, they could request the cancellation for the patent of the infringer based on the prior right they had. Yeah, so they could ask for the cancellation, but they could also ask before the infringer itself, request them to withdraw, cease the use of this novelty, but also withdraw the application. And they went for both of them, because you never know when you request someone to do something and it's not something that has been being requested by a court order. It's always a 50-50% that what you request is actually granted. No, so they went with the two options, and luckily they did have the right. The right correctly existed in Mexico as well, and the outcome of this case was fairly positive. They were able to defend correctly defend their right and their commercial interest in Mexico. So key lessons for you today is align your business strategy and your IP strategy. Registration, use, and defense of your rights needs to go hand in hand. They need to walk. They need to be overlooked together. It's not in the moments of crisis, how do I defend my right? No, I'm already foreseeing that this asset is important for my commerce. Asset is important for my business, and I need to have the right properly under my belt. I need to register to obtain the proprietary rights. I need to learn how to use it to generate income, and I need to keep an eye for what's happening in the market to avoid problems, mainly to avoid problems. And that is the last message I have for you. Not the last, because the last is use our services. They are incredible, free of charge, and very handy for business internationalized. I will put on the same question again, and if you could take a moment to answer, I would appreciate. Even if the answer to this question has not changed, please take a minute to give me your answer.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have already responded.
Okay, thank you. I see I have a question there. I will answer the question.
Yes. Can you also specify if the response is right or not?
Yes, I think at the beginning there was, luckily for me, so I can prove the services has an impact. There was one wrong answer at the beginning. Yeah. And at the end, all answers correct. So the correct answer is when there is a formal request is filled and granted by the relevant authority in the country I or you have commercial interest in.
Okay. Now let's answer the question from the chat from Mr. Alexander Belinsky.
Okay, let's see if I can understand the question. So which countries provide provisional protection for PCT applications entered in national phase in these countries? So damages could claim for a period before the national patent has been granted after the grant of such impact. That is a fairly complex question, okay? I think I do understand what you're saying there. If I'm going to answer, and if this is not the answer you want to hear, maybe you rephrase the question. But here, when there's an understanding that after you applied for a right, you have certain rights, yeah? And these rights may or may not be granted because this right is going to have to go through an examination. You apply for the right with the relevant authority. In this case, he's telling me he used the WIPO, the Patent Cooperation Treaty, to internationalize the patent rights in certain countries. And he's asking which countries provide for this provisional protection. And I think the answer here is like most countries, and I'm not saying all, because here we're talking about 30, not 33, because not all of them are members of the Patent Cooperation Convention. So, and not all of them, but a good part of them will provide for this provisional protection. But here we need to be careful. Here we need to be careful, because though you have this provisional right, this right really only fully exist and can be fully exercised. The right can only be fully exercised when it's granted. So here is, I can use this right to defend my interest within the process. Let's say before the granting phase, I can use the right to defend my interests during the process. But then, if my right is not granted, this decision that took within the process will be reversed. Now, here there are a few things that are kind of tricky, no? The agility of the patent office, the particular patent office, and the agility of the court I'm asking remedies for an infringement case. Yeah, so they not necessarily run in the same speed, and two things may happen. One is that the court decision happens before, which is unlikely because courts also tend to be slow. And if I have the granting decision and the granting is not positive, is actually not granting, then obviously the court decision will be, I am unable to give you this right. I am unable to enforce these rights. But not only that, because you started the procedure before, then you're going to have to, in most case scenarios, not all case scenarios, you're going to have to bear the court costs. And the court cost is not the court costs, but the other part costs. What do they have to put to defend their position? Yeah. So is a fairly tricky, what the question Alexander is asking there is a fairly tricky questions and depends on an enormous amount of variables. If it has particular details of the case he is looking at the help desk will be very happy to help him understand the particulars of his case scenario. Okay, if an unregistered, I have another question from Victor. If an understand this. I understand. Alexander says he understands the provisional rights would be confirmed after grant, and the US, I think you could not start any procedure until grant. Okay, the US is a fairly tricky territory for starting legal procedures because the costs of legal procedure are fairly high. So here you're connecting potentially legal needs, legal requirements of the legislation of not starting actions before the right that you have a patent conclusion. We also business decisions, no, because of the cost of the litigation in the US. I don't think that is the case in many Latin American countries. The cost of litigation is not that high for many Latin American countries. Okay, so that the cost is not there. But also, and here is not all. Okay, it's not all. In some countries, you'll be able to start the procedure. In some countries, you'll be able to say, in others, you will not. So here to determine exactly the answer to your question, we actually need to see which exactly countries we have in our hands. Yeah. So in some of them, yes, you'll be able. In some others, you'll not be able, and slightly different from many points of views.
I think it's better to continue on email these questions because it's taking a lot of time and maybe not all the participants are really engaged in this case. So I suggest Mr. Alexander to just write me and I will redirect it to Giovanna, of course.
Great.
If that's okay, I'm just gonna write my email address so you'll have it and you can answer you redirect your question there. Just a second.
Okay, so in the meantime, I will answer Victor's questions. Victor says, if unregistered rights exist, don't IP rights exist from the moment they are created, and you register just to extend and enforce them nationally and internationally? Okay, so here is another complex question. Okay, is another complex question. It's like, in my presentation, I discussed unregistered design rights in the EU. Unregistered design rights in EU exist, so the IP rights exist for a period of 3 years. If you want your rights to exist, your design right, specifically your design rights, the aesthetic features of your product or its packaging, if you want to exist for more than 3 years, their right needs to be registered. That's with the EU. In Latin America, there is no unregistered design rights. The only way for design rights to exist is through registration, okay? Now, when you say created, it gives me the impression that you're not talking about designs. When we talk about creation, maybe we're talking about copyrights. Yes, I don't know if that's what you're talking about. A copyright is a different type of right that covers a different type of business need. A design right, the one I discussed in my presentation, that exists as unregistered in the EU, is regarding the aesthetic feature of a product or its packaging. A copyright, on the other hand, is creative work, as in a song, as in a book, as in a blog post, as in a photograph, as in a cartoon character I drew. And those copyrights, those rights that are given to authorship, exist since the creation. They don't need to be registered. Copyright, which is collectively literary and artistic work, they exist from the creation. So here we need to separate what type of intellectual property rights you're actually referring to, so we understand when they start existing.
Okay, I think that concludes everything. I mean, you can also address all of your questions on the address that I sent you. So I'll redirect them directly to Giovanna because it would be less time consuming for everyone. And you will have your responses very accurate and concrete to the point. So I guess this is a better opportunity. Even if you're just curious about something or anything, you just can write your questions directly to us. Also, you can visit the website that Giovanna presented here. And I just wanted to thank you, everyone, for your participation and active engagement. Honestly, it was a very helpful and interesting webinar. And I hope that you will be interested in our future events as well, and you'll participate in them. And thank you for your time. Thank you for our speakers. They were wonderful as always. And yeah, thanks everyone for participation.
Thank you very much, Anastasia and Afaceri, and everyone that joined us today as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.